Every year.
I think JT has the same haircut that Javier Bardem had in No Country for Old Men. He sort of looks a bit like a serial killer. If he wasn't such a good bloke, you'd imagine he's probably massacred 1,000 prostitutes already.
Yeah. I had big raps on Damien Cook early this year. Successful Origin series. He's made the Kangaroos.
I was complimenting him early, to be fair, but mainly his moustache.
You know what I have noticed about the women's game is their hairstyle. If you're going to have long hair and play the game, you're going to have to keep it pretty tight. But I'd like to see him go the next level and shave the head.
So you just want 34 baldies out there in
Or
the
at
women's
least
game?
one or two in the halves.
Hello and welcome to yet another special off-season edition of The Voluntary Tackle, the only NRL podcast to have unsuccessfully lobbied for an exhibition match between Palestine and Israel. Couldn't decide on whose home ground it was. But first, I'm joined by the only man who was legally prosecuted for selling his pet rock into sexual slavery. Of course, I speak of Chip Jones.
Well, it was a funny shaped rock. And, I quite liked that rock. I wasn't selling, I was lending it to people.
Right.
Like, I wanted it back.
Okay, well, so do pimps,
Yeah.
to be fair. They don't say, go and make some money, prostitute, and never come back.
Yeah, I think there was a confusion between people thinking I was selling rock and actually renting my pet rock.
Okay.
So
Chances are you're doing both.
well,
Look, I'm not making any accusations, by the way, but that one's on the record, the pet rock thing. I looked up your criminal record the other day.
Yeah.
And as you said, it was a particularly phallic-shaped rock.
It
So I
was.
couldn't blame you for that.
Yeah.
Huge guest on the show today, mate. Big Mark Geyer, the one, the only.
He's the only man I know named after a British sports car.
Yeah, right. Oh, there was that other guy. What was his name? Minnie Miner.
Alfa Romeo. Oh,
Yeah, but he was a dickhead. I'm glad you stopped being mates with him.
they're not British, they're Italian. Anyway.
Fucked up there. Look, I'll never forget, for me, the big Mark Geyer moment for me, Chip, was watching the 1991 grand final, Penrith-Canberra. They do the short dropout and Big MG storms onto it, pops the ball to Roy Simmons, wins the game.
In you go. Yep.
A huge moment. Don't quite remember his Western Reds days as much. What was your Big MG memory?
The Western Reds were just spectacular. In fact, I think I might have to get one of those jerseys. Look, MG, he had some big Origin moments.
Yeah, he did. Obviously, the Wally Lewis moment comes to mind.
Yeah, there was some just absolute beauties. I mean, anything with Wally Lewis in there, and particularly getting a bit of mongrel in it.
Absolutely.
Get a bit of mongrel in there.
The MG tells his story, I wonder if we'll bring it up today, where he was basically told by the coach to go out there and cause
Put
mayhem.
the stink on.
Yeah, just said, don't worry about the rules. Just make sure...
Second scrum.
Exactly. They know they've been hurt.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, there's part of me, well, not just a part of me, most of me wants those days back.
Well, it's a funny one. I think State of Origin is one of the few formats where we should just be able to, and to use a term I'm very much fond of these days, and one of our former callers has enlightened me too, is to punch fuck out of each other. I just think, why can't we just bring that back into at least the State of Origin series? I mean, let's leave it out of NRL. That's fine. Let's have State of Origin after 9 o'clock, past the kids' bedtime. Let's give it an R rating and just get stuck into it. I'd even like to encourage one player to be able to have like some kind of drawstring garrote.
I see. That's very
Like in the shorts.
It's very Peaky Blinders. In fact, I think that both teams should dress up just like they do in
The Peaky Blinders with some caps.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just
Razors.
go at it with razor blades. And obviously, last man alive wins.
Yep. Well,
Obviously, goes without saying, Billy Slater would get man of the series, but it
Probably-
would be great to watch.
he'd probably get killed first and still get, man of the series, most head-ups, most tackles, most points even.
Would he
And,
get killed first because no one really likes him, or...
Well, I think what it would be is most of the time you've got one team fighting the other team, but in a violent situation, I think everyone would just kill Billy first. There'd be like a mutual nod and a wink and say, right, let's just clean this fucker up first.
That could be like a new Tarantino, Kill Billy.
Kill Billy.
We should picture
Like
that
it.
in. I like it.
Well, we could almost go for Kill Bill 4.
I tell you what, we've got so many ideas. We should commercialise one of them one day because we have no money. But look, it's a really good segue, Chip, because speaking of Origin, and we will talk about this with MG later, but Freddie, now we know he's an odd guy.
He is.
He's proposing alternative State of Origin jerseys. Chip, I need to know, Are you behind this?
Look, I'm going to give Freddie the benefit of the doubt here. He, as far as I know, he always he's a proponent of the puff give. He will actually share. Always passes to the left, and when he's out there in the llama paddock, he doesn't mention the llamas. They're just there. And I think there's a bit of a Jersey angle going on here in the same kind of way. It's he's thinking outside the box. He's thinking outside the stadium. I think he's even thinking outside the state, or the normal state of mind anyway. And so, let's give it a crack. What could go wrong? We're not going to lose another 10 in a row. We won the last one.
Do you think it's a case of he's really just trying to obliterate those memories of the last 10 years? Obviously, we had success this year and it's fantastic. But before that, as we know, well documented.
It was painful.
Wasn't great. So this idea of the sky blue, is he just trying to kind of get rid of the stigma that's associated with the sky blue by literally changing the jersey? Now, I don't know if any of our listeners have seen this thing, but what would you call it? It looks a bit like a Cumberland. a Cumberland jersey,
in fact.
Like, it feels like it might be from the 1930s. It's a bit of an interesting look.
Okay.
What do you think of the aesthetic?
Well, look, I quite like it, but then again, I'm into retro. So, and I think give it a go. I think anything to confuse the Queenslanders, and particularly now we've won, I reckon just get out ahead and just keep changing the game, Freddie. You've got our approval, and
Freddie's so out of the box, isn't he, that I can almost see him going, you know what? Let's introduce Tassie to the Origin series and make it a try series, even though they don't play the game. I just think Freddie's that kind of ideas man who's literally trying to come up with an idea that nobody has ever had before.
Look, Freddie, if you're listening to the podcast now, give us a ring, okay? Don't give us a ring while we're on the phone with MG because we won't be able to talk to you, but do give us a call and, mate, let's have a chat about it.
If it came to redesigning jersey, say it was up to the voluntary tackle chip to potentially redesign the jersey. Now, Freddie's got his idea. I was thinking if we were going to go in any particular direction, I'd love to see the Blues all turn out in those hypercolour T-shirts from the early 90s. Do you remember those ones where you put your hand on it and the heat changed the colour?
Yep, great idea.
Which would be fantastic because you get those players that are a bit lazy. It's like say Latrell Mitchell's having a quiet game. He wouldn't even heat up. His jersey wouldn't change. So it'd be kind of giving you a visual cue of who's been a bit of a lazy shit.
I think it's not a bad idea, but the dirt does that, you see. You'd see a lot of clean jerseys over the last 10 years. Look, but I do think you're on the right track. I don't think we should go for sequins. Perhaps for the ladies' game, they could have like a sequined shirt.
Oh, you say that, but how good would Paul Gallen look in the sort of the disco look, like kind of the rhinestuds and the Leo Sayer hair?
Yeah, that's right, but I don't want him back in the team.
Oh, he won't become a dad.
So
but wait, it is Freddie. Who knows? He might go, you know what, out of the box, Paul Gallen, halfback.
I think he could float the notion just to confuse the Queenslanders.
Yeah.
But I can't see... I can't see Gallen coming out there and doing it unless he's going to play a Cooper Cronk role and just not touch the ball, not really make any tackles, just kind of stand in the background, confusing people.
I think he did that for about 8 years, didn't he? That's why we didn't win any series.
Unsuccessfully. But maybe Freddie could change that. I mean, I'd never say never.
Do you think the Queenslanders might try to follow suit here and change their uniform? Because obviously theirs is quite iconic. It'd be very difficult to see them getting rid of the all maroon and the 4X. But is there a chance that Freddie's finally got inside their head and they're going to come out next series, not tell anyone, and they'll just be aqua?
You know what? I think you've raised a great point here, and this just might be a masterstroke from Freddie. And let me bear this out. Let's say that he plans to change the New South Wales jersey. Queensland follow suit and say, well, we're going to change our jersey. And then when they show up to play, Freddie comes out in the traditional jersey, a bit like the fancy dress party where you've told your mate it's fancy dress and everyone shows up and it's not fancy dress.
Just to fuck him over.
They just look that stupid.
Yep. You've told your mate it's a Mormon theme.
Yeah, it's a Mormon theme.
Yep. And it turns out it's just a regular wedding.
Come as your Mormon, okay? And don't worry about pants. We're all wearing pink. We're going to wear pink MC Hammer pants, okay? So pick some of those up. Come down and...
Wait, can I just get this right? Is this half Mormon, half MC Hammer?
Pretty much. That's where I'm going.
What a fucking good look that is.
It's pretty tough to beat, that one.
I'd imagine there's no way if the Blues turned up in half Mormon, half MC Hammer gear, they have to win.
Yep.
just because I think the Queenslanders would be stunned.
Because, with the Mormon thing, it's like you can't touch this, but I can touch like 3 or 4 different women at any one time I want.
Oh, it's got hairy. More after this. Welcome back to the Voluntary Tackle. Very exciting times on the show. We're just about to call the man of the moment, Mark Geyer. He said he's in his limo, and we're allowed to call him between Penrith and Ingleburn.
Okay.
So we don't know where that is. I've GPS'd it, have no fucking idea.
Yep.
We're just going to call him
Let's
now.
try it now, see what happens.
Good evening.
Big MG. It's Aimon and Chip from the Voluntary Tackle, mate. How you going?
How are you, my friend?
Very well, mate. Look, obviously, first and foremost, mate, thanks so much for sparing some time to come on the show for a couple of idiots who get behind the mic every week.
Speak for yourself, mate.
It's much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure, buddy. Who is Aimon and who?
Aimon and Chip, mate. This is Chip Jones.
Chip Jones, mate. Nice to chat with you.
Chip Chase, going Chippy.
Now, MG, obviously, we can't pay you any money for coming on the show, mate. We have a very limited budget, but I can offer you a signed Hunter Mariners jersey if that's very enticing.
Mate, I'll take it if it's not signed.
Oh, it's signed by Craig Kamali, so I don't know if that's going to work.
Well, I'll take it then. Yeah, I'll take it.
MG, just to kick everything off, obviously here on the Voluntary Tackle, our mantra is there's no such thing as an off-season because there's always news breaking in the world of the NRL. And recently we've discovered this idea, Freddie's plan, to introduce alternative New South Wales State of Origin jerseys, which struck us as a little bit odd. What's your take on that?
Well, you mentioned the word odd. That's exactly what you get with the New South Wales coach. He's a funky cat. I played with Freddie, played against Freddie, and but mostly my memories are playing with him, and he does things differently, and that's the reason I think New South Wales won the State of Origin series this year. He picked a team unconventionally that were picked by basically by the fans and the fellow players in the team, and instead of going on reputations, he went on form, which is something we've been crying out for years. He made the players hand in their mobile phones. He made the players walk on grass barefoot. He done yoga. He done all things different. And I think if he wants to change the jersey up for the game in Perth, well, you let him do what he wants to do, because when you're on a good thing, you've got to stick to it.
You're right, MG. You certainly can't argue with the results, but part of me just thinks, Brett Hodgson almost died for that jersey.
Well, he got thrown in the fourth row by the Raging Bull.
That's right.
Jersey, so, yeah, you're right in a certain degree. But, yeah, it reminds me a bit of the Super League ARL jersey that the ARL wore around 97. It's a bit similar to that. So maybe Freddie's bringing back the Super League team, and he might know something we don't know.
That's right. A part of, I know Chip and I have had similar theories on this. We kind of feel as though Freddie could just be an absolute mental genius when it comes to just messing with the mind of the Maroons. And we're wondering if this is sort of part of that strategy. Do you think that he's just trying to get under the skin of the Maroons?
Well, if you're trying to get into Freddie's mind, good luck. You might be in there for a good couple of years. No, look, he's unique, Freddie. He burst on the scene as a 17-year-old, played first grade, played in grand final at 18 in 1990, won a grand final at 20. All the records, he's the most capped New South Wales player of all time. And, we joke about him, but there is no joking anymore. He's turned the corner as far as people thinking he's this aloof character who just delves into the other side, if you will. He just loves exploring other alternative notions, and I think all the scientific stuff that comes with the jersey probably tickled Freddie's fancy as well. It's got its own GPS. It's a robot as a jersey. So I know Tedesco had one of the tightest jerseys ever in the Origin series this year, and that seemed to work. So if Freddie wants to get this jersey changed in any way, shape possible, well, he's the man to do it.
So, MG, g'day, mate. It's Chip Jones here. Look, thinking about getting into the mind of Freddie, do you think you've got to, beat the weeds back some to really understand what's going on in there?
I thought it was reference to You've definitely got to put some ground zero on it, and try and I think Freddie beats the sound of his own drum, which I love, which I think more people should do.
I agree with you, Mark. I totally agree, and I think that's why so many people love him. I can't help but think maybe, as you know, a bit of tit for tat. I'd love to see if the Maroons might follow suit and change their jersey, potentially to a bit of indigo with hints of warm lemon.
Love it. I'd buy one. I'd buy one straight away.
Limited edition.
With Kilroy in the back of it. Joe Kilroy, smoking Joe Kilroy.
On the topic of Origin MG, there's obviously the games are going to be taken to Adelaide next year. Are you a fan of taking State of Origins on the road?
Look, I think as many people see Origin, the better it is for the game. I think it's, a lot of people are traditionalists when it comes to New South Wales and Queensland, and I get that. But I'm also about spreading the love as well, and I think that the fact that we're going to Adelaide and we're going to Perth the year after, I think that's a good thing. I think the more, I've played in Perth, I've played in Adelaide, and I think that if the Super League concept was still thriving today, would be a fully national game. But at the moment, we're not really, and our logo is at the NRL, which is National Rugby League, which is kind of a fib, because we're not national.
Yeah, that's right.
We're Eastern Seaboard and we're New Zealand, so look, I'd love to see the game flourish. I'd love to see us bring in new teams and just stick with them. Prop them up like the AFL have with GWS and the Gold Coast Suns, and stick with it. You've got to have faith in the grassroots areas, and they're definitely grassroots areas, Perth and Adelaide. So, but they are they're massive in the fight against the AFL. So, I'm all for spreading the word, and I don't mind it being played there. Yeah.
I'm with you, Mark. I think that we should definitely, try to expose the game across the country as much as we can. In fact, on the show, we ran a little bit of a dummy test. We thought we might do a bit of a Larry's Lottery, if you will, and we just put a whole bunch of venues into our hat. Pretty unluckily, we drew out Coonabarabran 3 times. So that might not be a great system, but not sure if you think a lottery might be a good thing or not. But look, we wanted to quickly touch on, Mark, I know you haven't got a lot of time, but Rugby League Lite, it's been called. The NRL's proposed a new way of making sure there's no exodus amongst young players. So they're kind of trying to lower the contact at the junior level. As a man who played the game as fiercely as anyone, how do you feel about sort of making the game a bit softer at the younger grades?
Well, there's a sport already for that, and that's called Oztag. If you want to play Oztag, play Oztag. If you want to play rugby league, you get tackled.
That's right.
And that's how the game was built. I was taught when I was 5 years of age, and tackle around the legs and tackle as hard as you can around the legs. Nothing above the shoulders, and that's the fabric of our game. You might as well change the shape of the ball if you want to stop aggressive tackling. It's a no-brainer. Like I'm not talking as a dinosaur here. I'm talking as a dad who's had a daughter play rugby league. I'm a dad who's had both his sons play rugby league for over 15 years, and there's nothing more breathtaking when you see a great tackle in a rugby league game, and albeit aggressive or copybook. So to have the notion of not tackling hard in a rugby league game, I think it's honestly it's a jab, isn't it?
It's a bit weak.
We'll bring in weight for age and bring in if that's the case, bring in weight for age and make it you can tick a box whether you want to play weight for age or you want to play against blokes who your age but are bigger than you. Try telling Jeff Tuvey and Alfie Langer that you can't tackle hard around the legs. They're two of the best defensive halfbacks that have ever played the game, and they're two of the smallest blokes ever played the game. So, what's next? 3 points for a field goal.
You're right. It feels like we're setting a bad precedent there, and I mean, look, I think there's almost a danger if you implemented a non-tackle version of the game. We'll probably be breeding too many Cody Nickaremus. So we want tougher guys in the game. But look, as you said, I think that the best solution there is probably weight divisions. Makes a whole lot of sense. But look, we'll probably just push on. We've actually wanted to quickly talk about Trent Barrett as well. Obviously the very awkward situation going on over at Manly where Des is there, Trent's still there, but no one really knows what his job is. What are your thoughts about that? How does Trent get out of this?
Trent's everywhere. Trent's, look, I think it's an uncomfortable situation that Manly are in, and I think Manly should do the right thing and pay him out and get on with life. I think Brisbane should do the same thing. I don't see you. Why would you want to coach at your club who has nothing to do really with your team going into the future? I feel for Trent Barrett. He wanted to pull the pin, and then all of a sudden he changed his mind because there wasn't enough deck chairs in the gym, and the gym wasn't up to scratch. And all of a sudden he wants to hang around. I suppose that's the legal advice he's been given. So. But we could look at it in a positive way. Now Manly got two coaches, so they're going to be equally as good. So, but the same with Bennett in Brisbane. Why would you want to coach coaching your team who's coaching another club the following year with all eyes on that prize? I don't get it. I know players do it, and I don't like how players do it because it seems to be an epidemic of it at the moment, where players are playing for a club. 12, 18 months out from playing for another club. It's just subconsciously there's anomalies like Blake Ferguson, who had a great year this year, and Angus Crichton, who had a great year. But as far as coaching go, I can't see you trying to control a roster at a club that you're going to another club the following year with you are on that roster. So, what, you want to make this roster stronger than the one you're going to? I don't think so.
So, you make a good point there, MG. And look, mate, maybe we can put our heads together because you're one of the greatest rugby league minds going around, and I've never had problem getting fired from any job I've ever had. So I reckon if we put our minds together, we can get Trent out of this. Now, I'm not saying we go for like a sexual harassment claim. I'm not saying he should glass someone. But surely there's a way that he can get out of this. Like, I reckon we could put our heads together. We get him out of that job in like 30 minutes.
There's no two ways about it. There's, mate, just do something illegal. That's, Trent Barrett.
Basically, that's what we're saying.
Trent, if you want to get out of it, but then he won't get paid out. So he's caught between a rock and a hard place, old Baz. He wants his $500,000, and who wouldn't? But he's got to do it with dignity as well. So
yeah, I'm with you, MG. Look, I feel for Trent. I actually think he's a decent coach, and he's just caught, as you said, between a rock and a hard place. But I know in the press you've been a little bit critical of players and coaches breaking contracts. They don't seem to be worth the paper they're written on. The David Clemmer situation comes to mind. Should there be penalties involved, do you reckon, if players break contracts?
I think most definitely there's got to be some sort of penalty or deterrent for players and coaches to. Like what we've witnessed this year, as far as the coaching merry-go-round goes, we'll probably never see again, and that's good. But there should be the NRL should implement something to make sure we never see it again.
What are you thinking, MG? Do you think maybe if
heavy penalties?
Yeah, I agree. Potentially, I don't know, if a player's really serious about breaking a contract, maybe they should really have to show it and demonstrate it. Like with David Clemmer, for example, maybe they say you can go and play for the Knights, but you'll have to donate your left ear.
There you go. Both pickies or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we could, take an analogy from horse racing and just put some weights on the side of them for 6 months. Slow them up a bit.
That's not bad.
Well, a handicap. Or maybe...
like a handicap.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what if they had to do some kind of dare, MG? Like, I don't know, if you really want to go and play for another club, you'll have to dress up like a rabbi and run through an ISIS stronghold.
Probably increase your speed off the mark, I would think.
Yeah, if you really want it...
If you really want it, that's not going to end well. But I'll tell you what, if you're dedicated, well, there's some obviously... You've obviously had time to think about it. I like where you're going with it. I like it.
Thanks, mate.
I like the fact that you want these players to really show how much they want to change clubs, because at the moment Look, in all seriousness, I signed a contract in 1985 with Penrith when I was 17 years of age for $2,500.
Wow.
And I've got that in a safe at my house, and it's the only contract I've ever kept. We used to be scared to break contracts because there was ramifications. But these days, there doesn't seem to be, and I don't know why. I can't, in my current employment with Triple M, I can't just say I'm going over to another radio station without there being big ramifications or, big penalties. And rugby league seems to be a rules to its own. The only loyal people in rugby league are the fans. And I say to fans, don't worry about following the players anymore, just follow your team. Because
good point.
you know who's going to be there. You know who's going to be there in a month, let alone a year.
I agree with you, mate. I always love that idea of even having the salary cap concession for players who've been at the club for a while. Well, why hasn't that been implemented? Because I guess from a fan's point of view, we love to see one club players, right?
That's one of the best points that I've heard, and I agree 100% with it. If you've had more than 7 years or 8 years at one club, you should be salary cap exempt.
I agree. Yeah, would solve a lot of issues.
It's what it does. It creates loyalty in the game.
100%.
There's a bit of there's a carrot at the end of the dangled for you. It's there's something. We used to have testimonial years for players who had 10 years at a club, and that player would earn that year. The club would put a testimonial year on for them, and all the takings from the dinners and the promotional activities that were around that player, he'd keep as his superannuation. Obviously, players are paid a lot more now, and we weren't professional back then, but there should be some loyalty to players these days. Look, 7 years at one club for mine is in today's climate is a bloody good effort. So
Absolutely.
why not reward them players with some type of dispensation from the salary cap?
We've got to get it out there, MG. We'll get a bit of a Kickstarter campaign or something. Look, I know we won't take up.
That's it. Hashtag Kickstart.
Yeah, exactly. We won't take up too much more of your time, mate. I just had a couple of listener questions to the show, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, this is from the biggest Tiger. He's wondering how long it will take Madge to work his magic at the West Tigers. Will it be less than 5 years or less than 2?
I think it'll be less than 5. I think about 3 years until we'll see the Tigers be a force to be reckoned with. I think Madge now being the international coach for the Kiwis, that opens up another corridor for players to, basically want to go and play for him. So I'd say within under 5. I think with 3 years they might see some glory as far as maybe a prelim final or maybe even a grand final in 3 years' time.
So, Mado, there's another question here from Gavin, and he's asking, should Freddie be an immortal?
Put you on the spot there, MG.
Yeah, look, as far as I think if Darren Lockyer becomes one, that Freddie should be one, definitely, because they're very similar players in a lot of ways as far as their representation goes. I think there should be, look, in 10 years of rugby league, I think there should be more than the amount of immortals there is at the moment. That's Freddie calling me now, actually, on the phone, so there you go.
Priorities. You better take that, MG. We don't mind you.
He's saying yes, he should be. So
Mate, jump him on the conference call, mate. We'll,
No worries, MG. Look, mate, we won't take up any more of your time, mate. But once again, a huge thank you for coming on the show. It's been awesome, and you're a legend of the game, mate. And keep it up.
Yeah, thank you, MG.
More rugby league podcasts and more rugby league shows. We need spreading the word like you boys. Keep up the great work. Freddie, go away, mate. Come on.
You're a champion. Thanks, mate.
Later, boys.
Thanks, MG.
Ciao.
Cheers. What an amazing chat that was with MG. It feels a bit surreal because watched him on the TV for so long. Used to watch him playing as a kid. And
great player.
Yeah, to talk with him, a bit of a thrill. I feel a bit like maybe like a 14-year-old girl around Justin Bieber. It's probably not good.
Yeah, I think you're a bit. I mean, I'm so used to hanging out with famous people that it's kind of like, I just get straight into the mateship thing. But I can see you blushing. I know you're very excited.
I'm not as cool as you, mate.
You did very well. Let's have a cheers.
Yeah, cheers for that, mate. Yep,
good
thank
call.
you.
And,
nice call. You're right, mate. I don't have that smoothness, unfortunately. I'm not the suave, debonair, Richard Gere type.
Yeah, that's what I'm for.
Okay.
That's
You
why I'm
see
here.
yourself like that?
Well,
I know you hire a lot of prostitutes.
That's my job on the show. Really. Your job is to kind of, be the straight guy.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't mind. So does that mean
No,
by
it
definition?
doesn't mean
okay,
that.
just checking.
Yeah.
Just checking.
The highlight for me was mentioning Brad Fittler and, asking whether he should be an immortal, and actually having Freddie call MG at that moment on the show.
Is that down to Freddie? Because we know he's a bizarre guy. Potentially he is a Rasputin type, and he knew we were talking about
Well,
him.
I think he's one of the few guys that we actually gave the live feed to, so he's probably listening live.
Yeah. Have we
and-
got that functionality? Because I run the podcast tech, and I don't even know if we do that.
Well, there's some things you don't know, and
yeah.
I have a deal with Freddie, and I've said, look, mate, he's very keen to come on the show.
Is he?
And he's emailed a number of times.
How good is the image of Brad Fittler emailing? For some reason, it just...
You like that?
It's a clash of worlds for me. I can't imagine him, going, am I going to go Arial or Calibri font? I just can't see it.
Get stuck on the fonts. But no, look, MG was great. I think he'd be a great one to get back again, perhaps when the season kicks off, and get some insight. I would have liked to have asked him about Jared Hayne potentially going to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, wow. So that's sort of breaking news today, isn't it?
This is kind of happening. Apparently, I don't think the Red V are going to have him. I don't know if it had anything to do with Mark Latham's call last week and mentioning that Jared was going. I think behind the scenes, Mark really wanted him to go there, but he had to give up that fight to go and join One Nation. And so...
I wonder if Jared Hayne, because he does obviously code hop a lot, do you reckon he might join One Nation too?
Well, anything is possible. I just think Mark's a bit too smart for that. He's a bit too politic to open up the back door, so to speak.
And let Jared in. I mean, whose jurisdiction would Jared represent? Where would you put him?
You'd have to rewrite some boundaries there.
You would,
You'd
yeah.
really have to... a football field wouldn't be enough for Jared in the world of politics.
You'd start small. You'd probably say, look, mate, you could probably run for, I don't know, the suburb of Macquarie Fields. And then you'd start small and then you'd probably be unsuccessful. But if somehow he got through after third or fourth election cycle, you'd sort of span out in concentric circles.
Well, I'd love to see him out of the game of rugby league for a
That'd be
start. I mean,
fantastic.
he was going to try and play for Fiji Rugby, and they've closed the door on him as well. So
They were very adamant about that today, weren't they?
they weren't really having a bar of it.
No.
No.
They didn't even entertain the prospect. Sometimes the PR for these teams will do the diplomacy and they'll say, oh, look, we haven't really got enough room for him. It's very competitive. They've
He's
just
a great player.
They've gone, no.
We just... Actually...
He will not play for us.
My money's on Jared will have burnt a few more bridges and destroyed a few more.
Possibly, literally.
Could
You
well
know,
be. Could
given
well
his
be.
criminal record. I mean, he's pyromania is not beyond him.
Yeah. Well, I think, what saved the NFL, do you think?
Probably the exit of Jared Hayne.
Yeah.
I would have thought.
They probably were onto him quick.
Yeah.
Because they got good research. They have a few guys there that are, just checking the players out all the time and go, actually, this guy's a bit of a Trojan horse.
Yeah, it was a little bit, isn't he?
Yeah. Maybe you should go to the Broncos. He could be the Trojan Bronco.
I'd love that to happen.
Yeah.
It'd be nice for Jared to bring down a big club.
Yep.
Welcome back to the voluntary tackle. Just over the wireless, Chip. That's right. I still listen to the wireless, even though we're on new media, and you'd think the radio is dead, but it's not. Just ask Ray Hadley. But on the wireless, on the way home, I was hearing that George Burgess, he only got 4 weeks for that horrific eye gouge.
It's a rough gouge, that one.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Chip, because I don't have I do have a problem with the act, but I think I might even have more of a problem with the way George Burgess reacted to the charge.
Yep.
And that was to come out and say, this is not in my game.
Well,
this is not in my nature.
That's bullshit for a start.
Well, I mean, has George Burgess ever sat down and watched his own career? Because it looks very much in his game, to be honest. He loves a good knee in the crutch. He loves a good forearm over the head.
Yep.
Raking the old knuckles over someone's eye sockets, I mean, that's, I'd say, a bi-weekly event for him. So for me, if you're going to try to remove someone's eyeball whole in one foul swoop, at least be honest about it.
Yeah, and say, look, I messed it up. I didn't get the whole eye. I mean, maybe that's what he's saying. It's not really in my game to get caught. Or maybe it's not in my game to, fail.
Right. So he wasn't referring to the act.
Pop the eye.
Okay, fair enough. So for him, I think his game plan was to actually go for a sort of an Ivan the Terrible tactic and actually removed, but to basically blind the player.
Pretty much. I think that's what he was going for. And, let's not forget an eye gouge is pretty painful. That hurts.
Yep, it's not nice. I think for me, it's down there with one of the worst acts you can commit on a rugby league field, outside of maybe trying to remove someone's testicles surgically. Could there be anything worse than that?
Well, Hopper Wade went there.
That's true. There's always exceptions.
That was worse. I mean, a finger in the eye is not quite as bad as a thumb in the bumhole. But look, they're different types of pain.
Yeah, they're both sort of orifices, aren't they? I mean, an eye socket's not generally considered an orifice, but when George Burgess gets a hold of one, certainly makes it one.
Well, he was trying to make it an orifice, and I think Hopper Wade was trying to widen the orifice as well. So, there are some similarities there. I think, one's painful and one's shameful. So,
what I never understood about the Hopper Wade saga that you're referring to is when they questioned Hopper about it, I still remember he said, well, no, I wasn't trying to anally penetrate the other player. All I was doing was trying to slow down the play the ball.
Yep.
And I just remember distinctly feeling like that would speed up the play the ball, if anything.
Yes, look, you do make a good point, and we have spoken about this before, being potentially one of the reasons why the voluntary tackle exists is moments like that that maybe are not spoken about.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because I feel like as much as, you almost feel like you can't have a person like John Hopewadi in the game because, the game's moved. But he was doing criminal stuff on the field. But as a viewer, I did like it.
It was excellent.
It was a compelling viewing because you were like, anytime Hopewadi was on the field, you go, I don't know what criminal act he's going to commit today.
Well, one thing I thought was funny is, if you'd, how do they go in the female game doing that? I don't think anyone's tried to.
Well, you wouldn't want to play mixed.
No, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You'd be in big trouble.
What do you think about the punishment here, Chip? George Burgess only got 4 weeks. Now, we've seen, people do high shots when they've got 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep.
The eye gouge, as we said, it's probably considered one of the dirtier acts in the game. How did he only get 4 weeks for that?
It's like the ultimate high tackle, in a way, isn't it?
A little bit.
It's like an eye tackle, in fact. It's a low act, and I think you've raised the point well there. I mean, you can get a dangerous high tackle that's unintentional, but nonetheless you're going to sit out for. If it's a bad one, you could get 4 to 5 weeks. Just for I didn't mean it, but yes, it was really dangerous. Spear tackles as well can be really dangerous, not necessarily intentional. The eye gouge, well, I don't see how you call that anything other than intentional. It's not in the spirit of the game, and really, I think you should probably be sitting out for a bit longer than 4 weeks.
So when it comes to that punishment, if we was, we love playing a bit of hypothetical here on the show. If we were the judiciary handing out the punishment here, or at least extending it beyond 4 weeks, what should we dish out for George Burgess?
Well, the first thing I'd say is look here. Right?
Okay, so you'd act like an English Bobby cop.
Yeah.
You say, hello, look here.
I'd say hello. Now, listen, look here. You're fucking Nick, mate. Right?
Trying to speak to him in his own language.
I'd say you fucking gone.
Right. So you'd throw him in prison, in an English prison.
You've done a mug act, mate. You're a mugler, right? You're listening? Right, good. Now shut up, cunt. You're gone, right? So fuck off.
Right.
I'd probably open with that.
Right. So just to clarify here, are you hitting George Burgess? Is his punishment that he has to listen to you do that impression, or do you mean you literally want to throw him in an English jail?
I think I want to do fucking both. You know what I mean? I want to do him.
What if we did the ironic punishment and we said like eye for
an
an eye?
Ironic punishment.
Exactly.
Okay.
We do an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
And we say, well, it's okay, mate. You can play next week. But we're taking your left eyeball.
Yeah. Maybe we could replace it with something bionic and call it the ironic punishment. It's
right,
like
but wouldn't that improve him? Because if you had a bionic eye, wouldn't it be better than a regular eyeball?
Yeah, but I think what we do is have the bionic eye cocked to the side.
It's getting highly sexual. I don't know if it was the direction we were looking for.
Not to actually dick him in the eye, but what I'm saying is that bionic eye off centre and unable to be centred. So you'd have this amazing vision of the touchline all the time.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Mind you, just out of interest, I don't know if you know this, Sam Burgess did dick someone in the eye once.
It's at this time in the show that I would like to bring up something that just pisses me off. Just fucking shits me.
That's not like you, mate.
I've tried to get over it. and I've really struggled. And
Is it that rash again?
No, that's cleared up.
Okay.
And look, I want to share this with you and get your feedback and maybe get some listeners' feedback. But I'll preface this first. But when I was a kid, I used to play the great game of rugby league. And I was a little kid, and I played under 8s. And I played 8s against the other 8-year-olds. And they were a bit bigger than me, but I had the heart. And then when the under 9s team came on after us and they didn't have an extra player, I went and played for them. And I backed up and I ate shit and fucking got smashed, but I grew up tough. In order to placate some of the Nancy boys, some of these PC fuckwits out there, they're trying to bring in Rugby League Lite, Eamon. They're trying to bring in a non-contact version of rugby. It's just not rugby league.
It's a bizarre thing, isn't it? It's sort of like, it feels like a contradiction in terms, rugby league non-contact, because it is the toughest game of all.
What could we call it?
Shithouse.
Shitty league?
Yeah, would you want to have a play?
Because it's not rugby.
Under
There's
9
no rugby league. There's no rugby in that rugby league game.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And look, the rationale, I believe, for the NRL doing this is because they're worried about young kids going, we'll go off to other sports because their parents don't want... their kids playing what
tough.
is,
Growing
perceived to be a tough sport.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it is a tough sport. So they're going off and playing AFL and soccer and
cotton wool,
sometimes netball.
Go and play in cotton bandages.
A little bit of lacrosse,
yeah.
I believe, is making a bit of a growth spurt in New South Wales. So we need to sort of clamp down on this,
Some
mate.
squash, maybe?
You mentioned something earlier, and it really resonated with me. When I used to play junior league as well, it is a rite of passage for a young one because... Sometimes you would play against someone, and I'm not stereotyping, say his name is Gimmer, and he's from an island.
And he
he's
may
a lot
or may
bigger.
not be an extra 5 years older than everyone else.
He may have had a beard when he was 12.
Yeah. It's suspect.
He may have been cheating. That's all aside. As a 12-year-old, you have to basically
Make that
man
tackle.
up and learn how to chop down a man by the ankles.
Yep, exactly.
And of course, the first 5 times it ended horribly. I was
get crushed.
basically... it was like throwing my head into a dashboard at high speed. But I think in the end, as a man, I look back very fondly on those moments, even though I did have a crushed pelvis.
Yeah, well, once someone does find you on the field and picks you up out of the dent in the ground, dusts you off somewhat,
The crater.
you come back stronger. And,
Sometimes, some kids didn't ever walk again.
Well, some kids didn't ever walk again. But you know what? That's rugby league.
That is league, isn't
That's
it?
the game of rugby league. You didn't see Cooper Cronk running on in the grand final going, let's play touch. I mean, rugby league is rugby league. If they want to mess with it, maybe we should make an anagram of rugby and call it Buggery League.
Well, we could do that. I mean, it'd be very confusing for
Just
people.
be a little slap and tickle. Maybe you can, just behind the ears, could you give me a little scratch?
Do you know what I liked about Cooper Cronk going out? Not just obviously playing with a broken scapula and manning up, but the fact that he didn't elect to go with the sling.
Yep.
He went, fuck it, I'm not even going to take a medical device
And
with me.
didn't whinge.
I mean, because it probably wouldn't have been, a part of the uniform. He probably wouldn't have been allowed to do that. But even if he had the
Well, he
option,
could have folded the jersey up to cradle his arm. He didn't do that.
he goes, fuck it. I've got a
He goes, I'm
scapula that
fucking
hurts.
playing. In fact, Trent, I'm playing. Mate, just to let you know, I'm playing. And not only that, I'll do an interview afterwards. Yeah, I'll go over and see Craig Bellamy and say, yeah, mate, thanks, we won. Cheers.
I like it. I'm with you. You can't see the game of rugby league without contact. It's sort of like, I don't know, taking the pedophilia out of the church. It just runs hand in hand.
It's just not really the same thing, is it?
It's not the same thing. And I worried, I was reading as well today, and I don't know if this is confirmed, but they're wondering if they should get Quade Cooper to be the ambassador for this non-contact rugby league, because obviously he's made a career out of playing at the highest level and never been able to make or affect a tackle.
That's right.
So
or
he might
really
be the
any
perfect
decent play. But,
He wasn't bad with the ball in his hands, but I don't think he ever tackled anyone. This is a shit idea. We can agree with that. How else are they going to keep young guys playing the game? What kind of incentives can they offer?
This is a very good question. And I probably have to get a little bit philosophical here, because I think the game of rugby league and a young man's rite of passage through the game of rugby league is ever diminishing in our society, because the idea of a strong man, a tough man who can make a tackle and hit the ball up is being pretty much systematically taken out of our society.
Are you talking about like in the office? You'd love to sort of get someone in a spear tackle in a meeting or something?
Sometimes that was necessary.
Right. Yeah, because I mean now they kind of want you to use your words or a PowerPoint prezzo.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah, well,
but you want to bring back a shoulder charge.
Well, which is quicker? I mean, I can stand there and make a PowerPoint presentation about you're a fuckwit.
Yeah.
I can tell you you're a fuckwit, or I can just smash you.
Yeah.
And then you'll know. And I can go back to work and make my cup. Look, I can do that in the time it takes me to boil a cup of tea. Okay.
I've actually just Googled that. Sorry, Chip, to interrupt you there. That's actually grievous bodily harm.
That's what it's called. That's right. Yeah. I think we should bring back grievous bodily harm.
Right. Do you think that should be the name of our show?
GBH. I mean, there's a G, a B, and an H in rugby. I mean, it's except for the H.
That brings us to the end of the show, and for those that have hung on, we thank you very much. It's been a very special one, Chip. It's very nice to have yet another very special guest in MG joining us. Hopefully, who would you like to see on the next show?
Well, look, I know. I mean,
Dick Smith.
We've spoken about this. I know that Brad's very keen to come on, so maybe we could send a shout out there.
Which Brad? Brad Mackay?
No, Brad Fittler.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's been trying to get on for a while. Maybe we could go there. We haven't had any female guests, and I'm starting to think that it might be time to have
You might be right, mate.
perhaps a female guest on.
Yep.
Show we're not completely misogynistic, or at least not both of us.
At least not 5% off the misogyny would be nice.
Yeah, just knock a little off.
A little discount. Could even get my wife on. We'll see how that goes.
You still?
Yes. She's stuck with me.
Wow,
I know. Despite,
That's amazing.
But look, it brings us to the end of the show, and I know our signature exit is when you, Chip, provide some wisdom for our listeners. So what's the wisdom this week that you can share?
Well, why did the mushroom go to the party?
Don't know.
He was a fun guy.
Why would a mushroom go to a party to begin with? Aren't they? They're not even sentient.
I think you're getting a little bit too literal.
Fair enough.
For the joke there.
Yeah. Maybe wanted to hang out with Donald Trump's penis.
Maybe. I've heard it's mushroom-like. The mascot fight. The Roman Colosseum. Okay, let's set the stage. You're 600 AD. Okay. They're going to bring out two mascots into the Colosseum. We've got free bread, free wine. Everyone's shit-faced and calling for blood.
Are you thinking of Oktoberfest?
All we need to do now is bring the two mascots out. Now, I need you to pick these two mascots. So give me two numbers.
Okay. 3,201.
Okay, that'll make us 6.
And 4.
Okay, 6 and 4. That gives us...
Your system's very strange, Chip.
Well, you said 3,000... No, you said 1,203, I think.
Nowhere near it.
What did you say? 2,301?
3,704? I've no idea.
Well, whatever it was, it equaled 1 or 6 or whatever I said it was. Just fucking listen to me. So 6 and 4, that gives us... What have we got here? We've got an Auckland Warrior. That's going to be tough to beat.
Okay.
Taking on a Parramatta Eel.
Ooh. Warrior
so
versus the eel.
Warrior versus an eel. And
Well,
the
can I kick
Warriors
off?
at home.
Oh, the Warriors at home.
Warriors
okay.
at home.
Well, I'm giving you my image of the mascots here. Is essentially Jake the Muss from Once Were Warriors.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm imagining he's quite inebriated. Yep. He's angry. He wants the eel to make him some fucking eggs.
He hasn't had his eggs.
Yet.
That's a dangerous muss right there.
Oh, 100%. And so this eel already is in a bad position. He's playing an uphill battle because...
Does the eel even know how to placate an angry muss with some eggs?
I doubt an eel would know how to make eggs.
Probably wouldn't.
It would only make him
Yep.
angrier,
Yep.
Jake the Muss.
Even watching the eel try to make eggs would infuriate further
Yeah.
Jake the muss.
Unless something kind of ironic happened and when the eel was trying to scramble the eggs, it got caught in the saucepan and Jake the Muss ended up getting served an eel and eggs, which he might have found quite tasty.
Could the eel have fried the egg with its electricness?
Ooh.
Could it have actually cooked the egg with electricity?
I don't know, it's possible, mate, but I think he'd use a stove.
Yeah.
That's just the way I visualised it, but maybe you're right.
Well, the eel's going to struggle to like push the buttons and like open the door and stuff on a microwave, I would think.
Either way, mate, the eel's going to struggle there.
He's struggling.
Even if it makes the egg successfully, I don't think it's going to stop Jake the Muss from just kicking the shit out of it.
Jake's scared of snakes. Perhaps he get confused and think it's a snake, or
I think that's Indiana
run
Jones.
away and
I think
fall over, or
we're
something.
thinking
I
of
don't
different movie characters. I don't
Yeah.
think he's afraid of snakes. It didn't come up anyway. Maybe the director's cut. I don't know. I certainly don't remember them bringing it up as a subplot of Once Warriors. It's mainly about domestic violence.
Probably not. No, and the abuse of his daughter.